Welcome to the Bookish Hour with your hosts, Sarah E. Burr and J.C. Kenney. And we are live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bookish Hour. I am cozy mystery author Sarah E. Burr.
And I am also a cozy mystery author, but I'm not named Sarah E. Burr. I am named J.C. Kenney. And folks, I'm going to show my age because I'm going to channel my Ed Sullivan and say we got a really great show for you tonight because it's all about the two of us. So, Sarah, you're my special guest. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you, JC. Let's get bookish. And it's been a while since we've actually had this like one-on-one conversation.
Yeah.
Thinking back to when we first started this little endeavor where you and I were both celebrating the releases of book one in our, it was Darcy Gaughan. And for me, it was Coco Klein.
Yep.
And to just see like how both our writing and our wonderful bookish community has grown has just been super exciting. So
Yeah,
I'm really grateful that we're here tonight, and as well as our wonderful guests who are joining us as our viewers. You guys are almost our special guests tonight. We'd love to take your questions during the show. JC and I thought that we would do kind of a nice like bookish endeavors that we have coming up and kind of where we are in our careers at this point in time, what we're working on, the challenges that we face, the amazing moments that we've had, and really just kind of dig into our writing, our process, and our characters. So really excited to be chatting with you guys this evening. As JC said, I'm Sarah Burr. I am going to be talking about a few different projects this evening. I have the next book in the Trending Topic Mystery Series, DM Me for Murder, coming out very, very soon, February 13th, just around the corner. I don't know if you guys had the opportunity to see the book trailer that I had put up on my author YouTube page. I just have so much fun being in Coco's world and designing graphics and making all of the content for her because it's just so bright and bubbly and fun. And I'm noticing now, like on my Instagram grid, that I'm definitely in my like pink and purple era. So it goes very well with the cover of Panic in the Panhandle, JC. I was like, man, those colors are just like all like totally into them. So I'm having a lot of fun with Coco and getting her ready for her third outing in the world. It's fun to see how she has come from, where she started, kind of this a little bit self-absorbed, kind of figuring out like, oh, how is everything going to affect me, to this person who is thinking about everybody else in the community, even when this time, like her name is really on the line with the murder mystery that's at play.
Yeah, and I have been fortunate enough to get an early copy of DM for Murder, DM Me for Murder, that is. I apologize. And I'm about a third of the way through. And so, Sarah, how about you catch us up to what Coco is up to, kind of what kind of happens here in this book, because to your point, this is, as the book opens, a really kind of big, exciting chapter is happening in her career. So because of this visitor who's coming to town, could you tell us a little bit about the book? And no spoilers, of course, but tell us about Coco and is it Latage? I'll admit I wasn't certain how to pronounce that name.
You're pretty close. I call her Latage. Like that's
Latage.
Okay. The story of how or where Coco is in her life right now. It's funny because when I was thinking about crafting this particular murder mystery and the excitement that it brings, I had always envisioned it a little bit further down the line in Coco's timeline. But after the events of Follow Me for Murder and Tag Me for Murder, I realized that Coco she needs to find her place in Central Shores in the like crime solving scene. And I actually spoke with this a little bit earlier today while I've been doing these like really fun lunchtime lives on Facebook. But I wanted to create a space where Coco and the police could really work together. And so I didn't want her to be at odds with them over like, you're accusing my best friend of murder or you're accusing my clients of murder. In this instance, it's the internet is accusing Coco of murder, because when the book opens up, Coco and her new client engagement manager, Amanda, are at this really ritzy, like new neighborhood that's being built in Central Shores because the wetlands around it have recently been in a big development boom. So houses are going up like the speed of lightning, and there are these like McMansions everywhere. And so Coco and Amanda are going to visit Latage, who is the influencer of influencers when you think about like in the grand scheme of things. And it's funny, I was reading in reading some of the reviews that the book has gotten, somebody said that Coco is a micro influencer. I was like, that's actually a really good, that's a really good identifier for her, because her following is around 3 million people, which I know that sounds like a lot, but in the world of influencers, that's actually like at a micro level. Where Latage is, she's like 30 million people are following. She is a big deal. And so she has come to Central Shores to work with Coco for her social media marketing company, because Latage is getting ready to do this rebrand campaign. She has a friend that has a clothing line that's coming out, and Latage is going to be the face of that clothing line. So she just wants to spice up her socials. She wants to, freshen up her website, all of these things that you do when you're planning a rebrand campaign. And unfortunately for Latage, when Coco and her meet for the first time, she's dead. And thus the internet, when the internet finds out, they're like, man, this girl Coco has come across 2 dead bodies in less than a year. Like, there's something wrong with her. And so they kind of come for her. And that's why Coco feels that she has to be involved, because she has to clear her name with people online. But actually, the police are asking for her help this time around because of her influencer world that she's a part of. They have no idea what it means to be an influencer. They don't understand what Latage does for a living. They need somebody to kind of walk them through these social circles and all of the stuff that this young woman had at play. And as the story continues on, you learn more about Latage and begin to understand why she reached out to Coco in the first place. And things then, without spoiling it too much, there are a lot of twists and turns in this one that I had a really fun time writing.
Yeah, I just got past probably the first big twist. And then it's like, oh, okay. And I'm not going to say any more, folks. You need to go out and pre-order it right now. But one of the things I want to kind of pick up on that you mentioned is that Coco, with her career, she really has the 2 different careers. She's the social media influencer. She's also the kind of like business consultant. So she's got a lot of things going on. But one of the things that the book really picks up, that really talks about early on, is that the police recognize that she has this skill that they just don't. And that, I don't think I'm giving anything away here, that they also recognize the fact that right now they are under the gun because there is all this building going on. So they're a little underhanded. Mm-hmm. Not underhanded, shorthanded. Hopefully they're not underhanded. But
no, these guys are above board.
Yeah, they're all right. But that's one of the things that I kind of want to talk to you about is, to your point, like you said, this is really kind of a new chapter where the police are like, okay, well, yes, she lives here, but she does have this skill, and boy, we need it right now. So they do begin to work together. So talk about that a little bit.
So that was one thing when I was, and I kind of do this with all of my cozy mysteries. I like it when my main character and the police can work together. There's a lot of ickiness with, there's a bad guy going around town killing people. Let's not try to have like too much other conflict going on in regards to the relationships at play. Because for me, it just like kind of takes the joy out of the experience. It's like, you know what? I want everybody to hold hands and sing Kumbaya. And so for Coco, and the fact that she's such good friends with the folks on the police force. You know, she and Gavin have known each other for as long as she can remember. She and Adrian have become really close. Deacon is dating Charlotte, and so she definitely has a rapport with them on a personal level that allows her to get away with a lot more than I think that they would if she was just a complete stranger off the streets that was nosing into their work. But because of her expertise on social media and the fact that Latage is this big influencer, and this is what Coco does for a living, you know, I think that they're a lot more readily to rely on her for understanding, you know, where should we be looking for threats? They do have a small police force at this point. And because of that, they don't have a trained tech guy or a trained technician that is going in and forensically analyzing social media profiles. And that's kind of what Coco has assigned herself. She's like, oh, I'm the social media forensic person. And I imagine as the, well, I guess I should say, if the plans for the new Central Shores community center that the chief is really advocating for, because they are getting all of these new homes going up, they're expecting this big population boom. They want to be prepared. They want to build this new facility to support the town. I really thought that this was Coco's kind of last shot to get her foot in the door as a trusted consultant before they kind of blow up and kind of become a bigger deal and have more resources at their disposal. So they kind of have to rely on her because they're short staffed and they don't have anybody to fill that role. But a lot of it relies on the fact that Coco is such good friends with a majority of the people that work there. And they know that she's gonna snoop around regardless. She's done it twice before. And, you know, Gavin even is like, you know what, I know that you're going to do this. I might as well benefit from it. And so he's sanctioning her in a way, but also like, I don't want to know what you're doing and I don't want you to get hurt, but I know you're going to do it. So help me to help you. And
don't tell the chief what we're doing.
Yes. And thank goodness they're all kind of like, they have this pact. It's like, you know what McGinnis doesn't know can't hurt him.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to take a second and follow up on Sarah. You're welcoming everybody. We want to say hi to Mark and Claudia and Evan, Farmhouse Reader, DHB, and Rudderhead. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Mark's chimed in with a couple comments for you, Sarah. First off, he says he has an arc of this book, and he'll be reading it probably next week. So, you know, not to have you sitting on pins and needles now.
We won't. Yeah, we'll keep spoilers to a minimum.
Yeah. And he also mentioned that he knows it isn't necessarily realistic, but he appreciates it when the police aren't automatically someone we're fighting against in a cozy.
I wholeheartedly agree with that statement.
Yeah. No, I do too, because I think it's that's an easy trap to fall into, you know, the whole crooked cop thing. And, you know, I think we owe it to our readers to, not that we could never use that, but let's try to be a little more creative. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, well, cool. DM Me for Murder comes out the middle of February. It's available for pre-order now, correct?
Yes, it is. It's available for Amazon pre-order. I believe that other retailer links are going to be live on February 13th. I want to point out something though, JC, really quickly, because when I am on Instagram and I post something, you know, you get those kind of bot accounts that pop up that are like DM me and all of this stuff. And it's like, okay, like, no, thank you. But a lot of people are saying DM for murder. And I am curious as to what grammatical thing did I miss that is the go-to for, because for me, it's always been, like DM me to be on this page or DM me to be on this. So I don't know if it's the whole, like, I live and breathe Instagram. But it's funny that you bring that up because it's actually been brought up several times to me by other readers. They're like, I have such a hard time saying the title because it doesn't make sense to me. It's like, well, that's what it is.
I think my guess is that it's I don't want to say it's a generational or a social thing, but it's like, again, to your point, you spend a lot of time on Instagram, you're very fluent with the lingo and things like that. And then you have somebody like me, it's like, yes, okay, I am on Instagram, but I'm not nearly, as proficient as you are. And so I'm not as, hip to the lingo, or the proper lingo, not only just with social media, but kind of the whole generational thing, because that's one of the things I know in the story. It really is a lot of fun for me to read the expressions and the colloquialisms, if you want to call them that Coco and their friends use, because my two kids are 27 and 22, and they use a lot of those same terms. And so it's fun to read them. It's like, okay, yeah, that sounds like my kids. So anyway,
I'm glad to hear that, because my birthday is next week and I'm going to be turning 35. And I still talk like this. So it's funny to read where it's like, when you get comments, it's like, oh, people don't really talk like this anymore. It's like, I do. It's like, sorry, guys. I'm stuck in my own little bubble of time. And so I think that the whole purpose of this was to have fun and to showcase kind of the wild, outrageous life that I think a lot of influencers have. And because there are different levels of influencers, that being able to identify with some parts and not others, I think is kind of inherently a part of what Coco's experience is. So yeah, it's my most outrageous book yet.
Well, I tell you what, I think it's fun so far, and happy birthday in advance.
Oh, thank you.
And I will also say that, I'm going to be your dad here. You have one, but, take all the birthdays you can get, believe me. And so, more birthdays are better than fewer birthdays.
Yes.
So there, that's okay. Now I'm going to step down off my soapbox. But so just out of curiosity, could you talk a little bit about, not only with regard to Latage and Coco as influencers, but for folks who aren't necessarily Instagram or TikTok folks, talk a little bit about what an influencer is. Believe me, I'd love to be one. I think all of us would love to, because it sounds like they don't really do anything but tell people what they like and get paid for it. But there's got to be more than that.
There are different levels and different, I think, goals for different influencers. Coco is much more of as she's grown and figured out like what she personally wants out of life, she knows that she wants to do some good in the world, and she wants to use the platform that she has to do good. So a lot of what she is working with and facilitating is highlighting products or organizations that are doing good in the world. And I have a lot of fun making up the products that she is collaborating with. I think in Tag Me for Murder, it was like a leash that has a built-in water bottle for your dog in it. But for every leash that you buy, the proceeds go to the Humane Society to help animals in need. And so she's all about giving these platforms a space and raising awareness. Because she has so many followers, she's able to shine a light on these causes. Whereas Latage is really about emulating this really bougie, fancy lifestyle and showing off like if you want to be like her, this is how you can live. But there's also this sweetness and softness to Latage as well of, do what makes you happy, be true to yourself, and, really take the time to enjoy what life has given you. And I think that they are what I wish more influencers were like, in regards to like caring about humanity rather than, getting sponsorships so that they're getting $2,000 handbags for free and all of this stuff. So I think that I like to, I think, romanticize them a little bit, but in reality, you've got people who are really, really working hard to push products and to push a lifestyle and just, I guess, a way to experience the world. But because of how the like monetary system is set up, they're benefiting from you just viewing and clicking on a link that they are providing. So it's definitely, I think, a little bit grittier than how I've painted it, because again, I'm trying to like make people like this, like these people are trying to do good in the world, and everybody can do that if they put their mind to it.
Yeah, but I think you bring up a really good point, because in DM Me for Murder, you not only have Latage, but Latage has her own little entourage.
Her squad, yes. The
Yes.
Latage squad.
Yes. And, again, I'm only a third of the way into it, but it's like, okay, there's kind of that, dark underbelly going on that folks here on the other side of Instagram or TikTok or what have you, they don't know about. And I thought that was really interesting. I picked up on that. I love, not only do I obviously write, but love reading mysteries. And it's like, oh, okay, here's some dirt that's going to be interesting. And so can you talk a little bit about the squad and how they figure into things?
So we actually, at this point in Coco's journey, we have two squads that we're dealing with. We have the Sleuth squad, which is Jasper, Charlotte, and Coco. And then you have the Latage squad, who consists of Ruby, her personal assistant / handler, Miguel, who is her fitness trainer, but really her like event companion, her arm candy.
Yeah, I love that term.
And then you have Katz, who is Latage's clothing designer and like her stylist. And yes, their dynamic was so much fun to write, because they have this, and it honestly brought to mind when we were speaking with our guest, Erica Miner, and she was talking about how, being in the Met Opera Orchestra, how everybody around you is just like waiting for you to fail. And so they can take your place. And that's kind of the dynamic that Latage has with her friends. But there's this weird, it's not only do they kind of want to tear each other down, or we'll say that Miguel and Ruby want to tear Latage down because they're very envious of her lifestyle. But they also really love her.
Well, I was just gonna say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let's be honest here. Latage is not Latage without those two.
Yes. It's this hub, and you learn that like Ruby has helped Latage grow her platform. She's the editor for her videos. She's the one that's helping her get the get the exposure that she has. But Latage is the talent, and without Latage, they're up a creek. But they still, nevertheless, because Latage is so kind of bubbly and effervescent and happy, they really adore her. And so it's this weird kind of balancing act where they kind of want her to fail, or they kind of want drama, but they also, want to protect her, and they want to keep this gig that they have going. So they were really fun to explore and to create, because it's kind of the antithesis of Coco and her friends, who, their ride or die, would do anything for each other. Whereas I think Latage's friends would probably sell her out if they have the chance, but they're not going to unless it's dire straits.
Right. Yeah.
People will learn just how dire things are.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and speaking of dire, if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk about myself for a moment.
Of course. Although I don't know how, speaking of dire, because we have so much to look forward from you this year. 2024 is going to be the year of J.C. Kenney. You've got two wonderful books coming out. We're going to talk about your upcoming Darcy Gaughan mystery. Tell us what's happening.
Yes. And so Darcy Gaughan #3 is scheduled to come out at the end of February. It's called Magic Box Murder, and basically this story picks up in Darcy's hometown of Marysburg, Indiana. And the gist of this story is that the local comic book gaming store owner has run this contest, a marathon for 10 years. And it's a gaming marathon. Over the time, it's gotten to be this really big thing in the Midwest. And in celebration of the 10th anniversary of it, they're really going over the top. They've got all of these prizes and all of these people coming in from out of town for the event. So one of Darcy's, I don't want to say friends, but he's a character we've known to come and tolerate, Rafe Majors, is a big time gamer. And he enters the contest, ends up finishing second. And the person he finishes second to is this really type A go-getter college student who some people think the world of, other people don't like at all. Literally an hour or so after the event ends and everybody goes home, Darcy gets a call from the owner of the gaming store that, hey, the young woman who won is dead in my parking lot. You told me, Darcy, that all of us local Marysburg businesses need to stick together, and you've helped other people in the past, so I need you to investigate this case and find out what happened, because the police are going to think it's me right now. So we go in, and hilarity investigations ensue. And one of the things I do want to say about this book is that one of the story arcs is, for those who have read the first two, and well, it's a story arc for folks who haven't read it, is that Darcy, this is her second career, working as the owner of a record store. Her first career was she was a drummer in a punk rock band. This is the, spoiler alert, the last book in the series. And so one of the things that I was able to do, I knew that going in, is that I was able to bring her former bandmates together with Darcy at the end. So we're able to kind of bring her story full circle at the end. Darcy catches the bad guy and all that kind of stuff. And there's, I don't want to call it redemption, but there's closure for her, because folks who know Darcy and have read the first two books know that there is still, with her journey as someone who is or who lives with alcohol addiction and some other things, having her past life as a drummer has been an open wound for her for the last 10 years or so. But she gets some closure on that as well.
I'm so glad to hear that, because one thing that has always impressed me about this series is that when we're crafting our characters, we have these good things about them, and then we have their flaws. And for my characters, I feel that their flaws can make them relatable but unlikable at times. Darcy's flaw, for lack of a better word, with struggling with her addiction, just makes her so much more lovable and real. And there's just something so vulnerable and beautiful about her that you just want to like wrap her in a warm blanket and be like, it's going to be okay. And I really love that that's the arc that she's had throughout this series, to be able to explore a darker side that we don't normally see a lot in cozy mysteries, but it's done with such like a delicate, deft hand that it's just very moving. So I would love to know, JC, when you were kind of formulating Darcy's character at the start, did you envision that, was this something that it was going to be easy for her to get over, or was it going to be something that was going to take her some time and that she would have to work on, and that we as the reader would need to really feel her journey?
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for those kind words, and I really appreciate that. And one of the things that I've always enjoyed writing with my main characters is that they do have some sort of, I don't want to call it a fatal flaw, but we all have a past. And I think it makes characters more interesting when that past is something that may be unsavory. And because I think it's a little bit of a trick, I'll admit, but it builds something in for me that hopefully immediately gives me a device that character is working on something to make themselves a better person while they're also trying to deal with whatever currently is going on. With my Allie Cobb Mysteries, Allie dealt with some long-term PTSD and anxiety from when she was growing up. For Darcy, I'll admit I come from a family of alcoholics. My father was. I have two siblings who are, and so it's something I'm familiar with. And so what I wanted to do with Darcy in particular was make her real, have fun with the whole rock and roll drummer lifestyle, but also talk about the fact that, in that world of traveling musicians, that's a hard world. Things can happen. And so I think it gave me the opportunity in coming up with, that particular flaw is something I'm familiar with. I know how damaging it can be to an individual's family. And then to your point, to have that person get to the point where they realize, yes, I had a problem. I can't go back in time, but what I can do is try to live my best life now. And for Darcy, part of that is trying to prove herself, or prove to not only herself, but to her community that, yeah, I'm not the person that I used to be. And so that's where it comes. And so that's where it has been fun. As the books have gone on, more and more people have come to realize, okay, yeah, she's not that person who literally got, saved out of a gutter back when she was at her lowest point. Now she's a person that people are turning to her, looking for help. And, and so that's been a lot of fun to write. And it reminds me a little bit of how, and I tip my hat to you, with talking about Coco here in book 3, how she has recognized that, again, she's a regular person. She's been thrown into these horrific situations. She's been involved in two murders. She's having some struggles with anxiety and PTSD.
Well, I have to thank you for that, because when I was reading your Allie Cobb Mysteries and having the, Allie sit and talk with a therapist about, hey, I, encountered a dead body, or I'm being attacked by these people. And it just kind of was the light bulb moment for me. It's like, wow, like a lot of the times in the cozy mystery genre, we have people finding these dead bodies just like left and right. And you get a couple moments of reflection, but they become desensitized to it. And it's like, you know what? I still think that even after finding, at this point for Coco, it's only 2 bodies. After finding 2 bodies, like, she's going to have some nightmares about that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that like you had inspired that in my own writing, because it's such an important, realistic topic for us to showcase to our readers that, hey, like, our characters may be superheroes, but they still need help and they still have these struggles. And I think that is really, really important. And you do it so well in both Allie and in Darcy.
Well, thank you. And I think it really, especially with you bringing it up with Coco, I think it resonates so strongly given the nature of this particular book, because you're talking about people whose livelihoods depend on social media and really on this facade, because believe me, I know folks, and I appreciate it. I know they love Monday Morning Maria. It ain't that easy, folks. Let me tell you.
It's like, oh, it's Monday. At least there's something bright on my timeline. So Darcy book 3, Magic Box Murder. Looking forward to having the cover reveal in the near future. Currently scheduled to drop February 27th. Don't have pre-order links yet, but believe me, I will be all over social media. I'm not on TikTok, but I am on Instagram and some of the others. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing Darcy's final ride with y'all. I'm looking forward to reading it, most certainly.
Yeah, well, thank you. And which leads me to what this is going to be. For me, this is the highlight of the evening, because Sarah, I've told you this before, and folks, I'm going to go on record that I love all of Sarah's writing. It's fabulous. It's wonderful. I love it all. But Sarah, your Glenmire mysteries are my favorite. I really love Hazel and Poppy. That there's something about them I don't know if it's because of the magical element, kind of the fantasy that you bring in, just kind of lets me escape from the real world a little bit more. Or maybe it's just Hazel and Poppy are just so fabulous. But you have their third adventure coming out soon. And I'm just going to turn it over to you because rumor has it you have something very special to share with us live and in person.
I do. Thank you for those. Thank you for saying that about Hazel and Poppy, because there is something, I don't know what it is. There is something so magical about them. Writing them is my most kind of out of body experience. I don't know, like that's a weird thing to say. I feel like I'm sitting behind my desk and like leaning over to be like, oh, you should do this, or this needs to happen while I'm typing, because they are just so, they're just so alive for me. And I really do love them. I love the world of Crucible. I'm so excited for folks to return to it. This one is, I literally just finished edits on it yesterday, and sent it to my beta reader for review. I'm very excited for feedback on it because the ending is, I love the ending, and I like really want to keep my ending as is, but I am worried that there's a little bit of a cliffhanger, and cozy mysteries tend to not really like cliffhangers. And while everything in the mystery and the story arc is wrapped up in a nice little bow, I am very interested to get feedback about how I've written the ending thus far, because it really sets the scene for the series to continue, but it's delicious.
Well, and I tell you what, I'm going to interrupt you real quick because, hold on, folks. You left us a little cliffhanger in this one, I'm going to say.
I did.
Yes, you did. And that was like, when I finished that, it's like, wait a minute, what is Winnie doing here? And so now, we're getting off topic, I realize, but I had to throw that out.
I got a lot of books. I got a lot of books to talk about. Yeah, I will say for Dearly Deleted and for the DM Me for Murder and for the upcoming Glenmire Wynn mystery, it was like the first time that I like did not stick to my mystery, that I like went in and the characters really just took me from start to finish. I'm usually very much, I stick to my mystery because that's how I get the book done. Because otherwise it's like, I don't know how to finish a book if I don't know how this mystery ends. So I'm entering a new like writing era where I'm exploring a little bit more and kind of pushing the boundaries, I think, of my own ability to sit down and write a book. So we'll have a little bit more to talk about after this little teaser that I will be dropping here. That is the official cover reveal for book 3 in the Glenmire Wynn Mysteries. So folks, enjoy this one. Spring is sprung in Crucible, and so has another twisted mystery. After a string of unsettling murders in their beloved hometown, candlemaker Hazel Wickberry and her Aunt Poppy finally feel like the worst is behind them. They're looking forward to enjoying the Big Melt Festival, a celebration of Lake Glenmire's thawing and the arrival of warmer days. But their budding plans are put on ice when a dead body is discovered in a car near Hazel's cottage. Even more troubling, the victim was a former friend of literary superstar Constance Crane. When the police come knocking at Constance's door, Hazel and Poppy are determined to prove their friend is not the killer. Their amateur investigation soon uncovers hidden agendas and long-held grudges that threaten to snuff out the peace in their idyllic town. Can Hazel and Poppy solve the case before they get burned? Find out in Flying Off the Candle, a Glenmire Wynn mystery by Sarah E. Burr. Join the Glenmire girls for another thrilling adventure in this award-winning cozy mystery series with a sprinkle of paranormal fun. Ta-da!
That is fabulous. Flying off the candle. I love it. That was the cover is gorgeous. I just absolutely love it. I love the trailer. Constance has been so much fun, and so I could just go on and on and on. But so tell us a little bit more.
Yes, the cover, thank you very much. I absolutely love that I was able to kind of weave in the character silhouettes to bring about more of a just to give the reader a little bit more center of like who the books are about, because the previous two covers have not had any people in them. But now that Poppy and Hazel have really kind of found their stride working together as an investigative team, and of course Hazel's furry friends joining the club, I was like, I have to figure out a way to showcase them. And I had the title of this book. I have too much fun coming up with candle puns, and figuring out like, okay, like how can I insert the word candle into something? And so I really had a good time designing this and bringing it to life. It went through a lot of reiterations. It's really funny to see like as my design abilities have evolved over the years, because I think I originally did a mock-up probably like a year and a half ago, back when I was first starting to write the book, and it was completely different, but also still like brought forth the same the elements that I really loved. So I'm really excited. I'm in this book. I realize that I say Poppy and Hazel a lot, because even though Hazel is our main character and she's the one that we're getting the point of view from, Poppy is just like right there in step with her, and she is such a like good investigative member of this team that it's hard to really distinguish them as to who really the main character is, because sometimes Poppy comes in and she's just like, I'm going to take over. And but there is a lot of, I think there's a little bit of emotional upheaval in this one. I think there were a lot of moments where I was tearing up as I was writing it.
Nice.
And I'm a sympathetic crier, as at JC, I'm sure that you know that reference. I cry at anything, but I rarely cry at my own work. I will say that I cried at the end of DM Me for Murder hard. And I really like cried for probably the last like 40 pages of Flying Off the Candle.
Wow.
So there's a lot going on. It's spring in Crucible. The Big Melt Festival was like my, when we're trying to figure out like, okay, like what cute, cozy festival can we celebrate this time? I was like, okay, it's spring thing, there's ice on the lake, but it's melting, melted sandwiches, like, oh, let's have like this big festival with a lot of melted food in it. So it was a fun thought process to get there. And I'm super excited. It is with my beta reader now. Once I get it back from my beta reader, I'll do another round of edits, which it's a lot of editing on my end. Then it goes to my actual editor, and then we'll begin the process to have it out, hopefully, fingers crossed, by the May-June timeline.
Nice.
So it'll be here before we know it.
Which is good, because Claudia says that Hazel and Poppy are her favorites.
Oh, thank you, Claudia. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then Mark, Claudia, and then DHB also love the cover. So
thank you guys. Really I'm very happy to hear that, because this was actually the first cover that I only got George's opinion on, and George does not know anything about cozy mysteries. So I don't know why I thought that he was the only person that I should get an opinion on this cover. But I think it just goes to show, like, I just like felt so much that this was like how I wanted to not only like showcase Hazel and Poppy, but it's also a nod to my love of Nancy Drew, because if you think about some of like her original covers, there's a lot of blues, there's a lot of greens, there's a lot of silhouettes going on. I just think of the silhouette on the spine of Nancy leaning with her magnifying glass. I almost said microphone. So that there's a lot of little ode to my undying love to Nancy.
Yeah.
So yes, May will be here before we know it. And September is going to be here before we know it, which is super exciting because you have a brand new endeavor coming out, JC. Tell us about Elmo Simpson and what we have to look forward to.
I do, yes. So I need to go back in time a little bit to February of 2020. My lovely wife, Nancy, and I wanted to get out of yucky central Indiana. We went down to Panama City Beach on the Gulf Coast of Florida for a vacation just to get away. And I had this story idea. I'll be honest, I was kind of in a little bit of a funk writing my cozy mysteries. And I decided, you know what, there's so many stories, not only in fiction, but in real life about crazy things that happen in Florida. My wife and I love visiting the Panhandle. We love visiting the state in general. We're total beach people. So an idea popped into my head about what would happen if somebody was murdered by getting eaten by an alligator. And so that was the genesis on that vacation way back in February of 2020 for what became Panic in the Panhandle. This story, it features a male protagonist. So I decided to this story really, I've taken a complete, I don't want to say complete, but I've taken a lot of major turns in what I look at my writing career. Because I feature a male protagonist as opposed to the traditional female protagonist in cozy mysteries. It really features a lot of over-the-top characters, this book. Basically, the reason that Elmo gets involved in this mystery is because he works as an animal removal specialist. So, for example, if this came to me, the idea came to me because about 10, 15 years ago, we had a little family of raccoons who took up residence in our chimney. And we needed to, guys, no offense, but we don't really want you here. So we called an animal removal specialist. And he came in, did this, that, got them all out, and, it was all fine. And I just thought, for an amateur sleuth, what about somebody who does that kind of thing? They're around town all the time. They're in and out of people's homes, in and out of businesses. And so in this case, he gets called when somebody says, hey, I think there's an animal that may be next door. And Elmo, as the animal removal specialist, goes in and finds this alligator, fully grown, 10-foot long thing. Immediately, the police think that the murderer is a friend of Elmo's who happens to own an alligator ranch. And his nickname is Rambo. So I think hopefully you're getting the idea already. We've got Elmo, who that's his nickname because of, you'll have to read to find out, but it is in honor of Elmo from Sesame Street. We have Rambo, his friend, who looks like, for those of you who ever watched Survivor, Rupert Boneham. You may remember him. Big guy, looks like a living mountain, big bushy beard, long, crazy hair. That's Rambo. We have all these other oddball characters. We have somebody who may or may not be a vampire. We have somebody who, we have this huge individual who runs a junkyard, but there's something else going on because even though they run a junkyard, they have to deal with calls coming in from all over the world. Elmo is also working on repairing his on-again, off-again relationship with his girlfriend, Nicola, who just happens to be a turbo captain. And so there's all kinds of things going on. And I have jokingly called this my No More F's to Give book, because it was one of those where I just decided that I needed to, as much as I love my Allie Cobb Mysteries, and as much as I love my Darcy Gaughan Mysteries, I was at a point where I felt I needed to make a change and go in a little bit of a new direction. And I love mysteries, but Elmo was the answer. And so this is something that I tell people that I've been literally back to 1985 was when 84, when I first bought my first Jimmy Buffett album. So before you were even born, Sarah. I've been a lifelong Jimmy Buffett fan, not only of his music, but of his stories and his novels as well. So I've woven in a lot of that influence. I'm a big fan of Elmore Leonard and Carl Hyacin, who both have written fabulous stories based in Florida. And so this is kind of really what I decided, what? This is the book that made me happy. And I like to think that it's funny, it's outrageous, it's got characters that you're going to kind of, raise an eyebrow at. And I just can't wait for you to meet Elmo and the other oddball folks who live in Paradise Springs, Florida.
Full disclosure, I don't even know how long ago it was that I read Panic in the Panhandle.
A couple years by now.
It's a couple years, but the way that when you say the names, I'm like, I remember them so vividly. And I just remember the characters just jumped off the page. And I love Elmo. I love his energy that he brings. And I know, and this is something that I've always really admired about your writing, JC, is that you really capture women really, really well.
Thank you.
Your women characters, some of them are my favorites in the genre. And I want to say that her name was Seven when I read it. Is it still Seven?
It is.
She is probably top 3 favorite characters that I've ever come across. I absolutely loved her. I don't know, she doesn't get a lot of space in the book, but when she is there, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so here for her. The setting, the wildness of it, I just absolutely had so much fun. And I think it really lends itself to being able to satisfy a lot of different readers, because you have folks that love cozy mysteries, but I think that there's just like enough of a wholesome, a wholesomeness to it that the cozy mystery folks will be along for the ride, no problem. But then you have the people that are like hard-boiled true crime, police procedural. And I think that there's enough of just kind of this kind of like the seedy undertones of the council and the politics within the town that I think appeals to that audience as well. It's such a really, really fun, unique book. And I can't wait for our viewers to get to experience it more and to hear you talk more about it as we get closer to release, because it's so good and it's just really fun. And I love to hear that it's something that made you joyful, because that is like, if we're not doing something that's bringing us joy, then like, what are we doing this for? Because I'm hoping that my books are bringing joy to readers, but if it's not bringing me joy writing it, like, what are we doing here? So I just can't wait. It's so wonderful.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it really has been, I don't want to call it a labor of love. It was a labor of love getting it to publication. It took a lot of time. A lot of people said no. And so that kind of makes it all the more sweet. But also, I think, and I know we're running short of time, but I think this is a great segue into something you and I have talked about before, is that we as authors do have to, unless we're Janet Ivanovich, there are times we have to take a step back and say, is my writing, what do I want from my writing? Is my writing reaching people? Am I doing this good enough? For example. And for me, Elmo was a way for me to admit to myself that, again, like I said, I really love Darcy and I really love Allie, but there was something missing. And so it's like, no, I need to go in, or I want to go, and I think I needed to go in a little bit of a different direction. And so that's what I'm doing. So yes, it is a little bit, I don't want to say it's darker, but yes, having somebody murdered by getting eaten by an alligator is a little bit, hardcore for traditional cozy mystery readers. And yes, it is kind of have some of that Elmore Leonard. You have this kind of seedy underbelly group of characters that despite what they do, they all may be criminals in one form or another, but you still like them. And so it's a change, and that also has made it exciting for me, writing something new and different. And so kind of what's your take on that, Sarah? Because you started out, with your first books, your Court of Mystery, fantasy mystery, whodunits, and you've kind of gone different ways yourself a little bit.
Yeah, I think the part that you said about am I reaching people, that for me is like, am I getting my message across of kindness is important, because with everything that we have going on in the world, that's like the one thing that I think that I would love readers to take away from, is that, for Coco, the internet is a really nasty place.
Yeah.
And she's just trying to bring some good and do some good in a cesspool environment. Hazel and Poppy, they're trying to protect their town. They're really kind of sacrificing their own needs and happiness for the purpose of keeping the people that they love safe. My goodness, Duchess Jacqueline, she's just like given up everything to try to like make the world a better place. And for Winnie, it's really fun to still be exploring, like, what is this slice of good and compassion that she's driving in the world, and to be able to really promote that message, because at the end of the day, that's what matters most to me, is like, it's very easy to be kind. If you don't have, my mom always told me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And I think that people can use a reminding from that. And so I hope that that's evident in my writing, it's easier to take the high road than I think we think it is. So that's my soapbox that I'm going on into my writing with as we continue throughout our journey.
And speaking of Winnie, do we have Winnie book 3 coming out yet this year?
I hope so.
Okay.
It'll be, so last year I wrote 1 book. I published 3, but I only wrote 1. And it's the first time since I started doing this where I had only written 1 book. Prior years, I'd been able to write 3. So this year, I am hoping, fingers crossed, that I can get a lot checked off. I really want to finish the Court of Mystery series, just so that I can conclude that, be satisfied, and then keep going forward with my other ongoing books. So fingers crossed. I've got a lot of hurdles to get over this year, but yes, it's on my to-do list.
Well, and you mentioned something also, finishing a series, that's bittersweet.
It is. And we didn't really get to dive into it too much, but I hope once we get to the release of Darcy's final journey, that we'll be able to really dig in, and you'll give me all of the tips that you have about, how, like, what do you need to do to like satisfy yourself as the writer?
Yeah.
Because, I just want everybody to live happily ever after, but like, what does that mean in the context of still keeping things a little bit grounded in reality?
Yeah, because I will say that the way Allie's book finished, I've been fortunate. Both of my series, I've been able to wrap them up on my own terms. Well, kind of. If I'd had my way, both would have been super, super mega bestsellers, and they'd both be going on. That hasn't happened, but at least I was able to find myself in a situation in which both of them went out on their own terms, kind of their own happily ever after, vastly different situations. And I'm not going to tell you any more than that, because folks go out and buy them. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to seeing how you wrap up with Duchess Jacqueline, because she's been busy for 9 or 10 books or so.
She's been super busy. I'm looking forward to how she wraps it all up. The nice thing is that I am laying the groundwork to do a spin-off series. So there are a couple things that I can leave unfinished. But there's definitely a lot that like I want to set in place before I kind of say this story arc has concluded.
Okay, and I apologize because her name escapes me right now, but I want Jax's new personal bodyguard to get her own series. Yes, she needs a series. She deserves it.
She's become one of my favorite characters. However, there is a character introduced in the last book that came out, Art and Ascension, that she's kind of an anti-hero, and I didn't think that I was going to focus on her too much. But after hearing my narrator bring the audiobook to life, I was like, how can I make her more like big in this series? Because I just absolutely fell in love with the character, and it was fabulous.
Well, cool.
So, awesome. It sounds like we have a lot to accomplish in 2024. I don't know when we're going to find time to read other books, but as we quickly wrap up, JC, any recommendations that you have for our viewers this evening as to reading, listening, watching, what have you?
Yeah. Well, like I said, earlier, DM me for murder when it comes out, folks. Get it because it is delightful. I am really enjoying it. Coco is she's so fun, and we didn't even get a chance to talk about her relationship with Hudson. He is so cool, guys. We need to be like Hudson. As far as watching, I am watching and totally enjoying Death and Other Details. This is a series, brand new series on Hulu starring Mandy Patinkin. It's kind of the whole show is a little bit of a send up of a traditional Agatha Christie-esque murder. Mandy Patinkin's character is kind of like an Hercule Poirot. It's set on an old ship. All these fabulously wealthy people, that are rich, and someone gets murdered, and you have the fancy people up above, and you've got the crew down below. And so I'm 3 episodes in, and it's just for mystery fans, it's just an absolute delight. How about you?
So the fact that you're talking about kind of like the different tiers and classes of people, I am just started watching The Gilded Age on HBO. Started it last week, season 1. We're already like way into season 2. I have not enjoyed watching a show this much in a really, really long time. It is by it's by the man that did Downton Abbey.
Yeah.
He writes and I think produces this series as well. It's so fabulous. I am in love with the character Mrs. Russell. I could watch her all day on screen. She's absolutely phenomenal.
Is that Christine Baranski's character?
No, that Christine Baranski is oh gosh, they call her Aunt Agnes all the time, but her name is Agnes Rhine. And it's a thing where everybody's super rich, but it's old money versus new money, and like the war that they went to in the 1880s New York. Oh, it's delicious. I could not recommend it enough. And then for books, I actually just started. I am a massive Harry Potter fan, and randomly on my Instagram feed, there was some woman. She's been reading the Harry Potter series for the first time and posting these hilarious reaction videos to it. But she also posted a video about this fanfic that she is now reading that's called Manacled. And I found it on Spotify. They like turned it into a audiobook, and I'm listening to it, and it's a reimagining of the world of Harry Potter if Harry had died at the Battle of Hogwarts.
Oh, wow.
Super dark, super Handmaid's Tale vibes. I'm only a couple chapters in, but so far I'm like, this is interesting. So if there are any Harry Potter lovers out there and you want some intense fan fiction, it's called Manacled, and I think it's going to get pretty intense. So
awesome. Well, folks, thanks for sticking with us a couple extra minutes. Sarah and I love to talk about ourselves, so that's why we've gone long.
Time flies.
Yes. So thank you all so much. This has been a blast. Y'all have your orders. First we have Coco, then we have Darcy, then we have who comes after Darcy. We're back to you,
Hazel and Poppy.
With Hazel and Poppy, and then we have Elmo. And we might have Winnie, we might not. So, y'all, we got plenty of good reading for you all year long, folks.
And we have plenty of bookish episodes for you coming this February. We have a lot. I'm pretty sure that every week we have a bookish hour. Usually we take a week off, but we have a lot of guests joining us. We have a lot of bookish moments. So it's really exciting that we're going to be able to chat with just so many amazing authors that we've had on the show. Either stop by and visit us again or visit us for the first time. So it'll be super exciting. Make sure you head to our website. It's bookishtime.com. You can sign up for our episode reminders. I promise I won't email you about anything else because I don't have time to. I'm just going to remind you that we have an episode airing so that you can join us live and be here for the fun. So again, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We will be back in 2 weeks time. And until then, stay bookish. Have a good evening, everybody. Bye-bye.